Me and my friends were fishing in the evening. We lit a fire, cracked open some beers, and were having our usual conversation. But suddenly, as if someone pressed a button, everyone went silent. Everyone was staring across the river. Duncan tried to make a joke, as always, to lighten the mood. But as soon as we heard this blood-curdling scream, we all froze. It was a sound unlike anything I had ever heard before. It was like this savage scream, straight out of the jungle, like someone was being set on fire. There were no talking, just that high-pitched scream. We all froze and listened to the silence that followed. We were staring into the darkness, trying to understand where the sound was coming from. And then, a moment later, a second scream, even louder than the first. Two of our friends ran to their trucks and grabbed their rifles, and the rest of us grabbed whatever we could find. We all were fixated on the opposite side of the river, waiting for movement, for something to suddenly appear. But this time the sound was not coming from across the river, but from the bushes a few meters away from us. We ran away, leaving behind all our equipment, fishing rods, the fish we caught, and everything else. As soon as everyone got into their cars, we heard it again. I think we were very lucky to get away that evening without anything happening to us. I had always loved camping with my boy ever since he was old enough to walk. We had always gone camping with other people, but this time it was just the two of us. I wanted to share some quality time with him, bond over the shared experience of being in the great outdoors. We hiked into the woods and we stumbled upon an old cabin nestled in the trees. I was curious and decided to take a closer look. When we approached the cabin, we saw an old man sitting on the porch. I tried to be friendly and introduce myself, but this dude seemed off and started telling us weird stories. He told us stuff like how he had been living off snakes and bugs for a month. I assumed he was trying to scare us. And I guess he did, because my boy was visibly scared. I couldn't blame him. As the night went on, I could see that my boy was still scared. So we hiked a little bit more and set camp far away from this guy's cabin. As we were about to go to sleep, I saw a campfire near us. I told my boy to go to sleep. I had this feeling that something was just not right. I decided to stand watch. I waited for what felt like hours, listening to this campfire flickering in the distance. I knew I had to protect my boy and keep him safe, so I came up with a plan. I slowly started packing, then slowly entered our tent. I grabbed my boy and left. Even though I tried to be as quiet as possible, the other camper heard us. He started shouting and screaming at us, saying creepy things like, "You can't run away from me. I'll find you. I'll always be watching you. I know where you live." I closed my boy's ears and ran as fast as I could. We finally got back to our car and left the woods. My son is now 12 years old and doesn't remember this, but I feel like I failed to protect him. After college, I decided to go on a solo backpacking trip in the Australian outback. I was in the middle of nowhere. To put this in perspective, the nearest town was a 3-day hike away. I brought a journal with me to document my journey and took a lot of notes and sketches, as this was before smartphones were invented. On the 3rd day of my trip, I set up camp and went to sleep as usual. The next morning, when I woke up, I noticed that my journal was open to a page where I had written about a strange dream I had. I made nothing out of it and continued my journey. After I returned home, I went through my notes and sketches in the journal and found a drawing I didn't remember making. It was a drawing of me sleeping in my tent, and there was a dark figure standing next to me, watching me almost. I have no idea how it got there. Who knows? Maybe I did it in my sleep. To this day, I still have no idea what happened on that trip. Was it all in my head, or was it something more disturbing? Whatever it was, it still worries me. I still have a hard time sleeping alone in the dark. It was a warm summer evening when a group of friends and I decided to go camping by the riverside. We set up our tents and campfire on the riverbank and went for a swim to cool off. After dinner, we decided to go fishing at night. As we sat by the river, casting our lines, we heard noises coming from the forest nearby. At first, we ignored it, thinking it was just the usual sounds of the night, but the noises got louder and it was unsettling. One of my friends suggested we investigate, so we took our flashlights and followed the sound into the forest. As we walked deeper into the woods, the noises grew louder, and we began to see strange lights flickering in the distance. Thought it might be another group of campers, but as we got closer, we saw that the lights were coming from a large, dark shape moving in the shadows. We were about to head back, but this shape seemed to be following us, getting closer and closer with every step we took. We stopped and held our flashlights up, trying to get a better look at it, but it was too dark to see anything clearly. Suddenly, a group of people appeared out of nowhere in what looked like some sort of ritual garments. They were chanting some sort of gibberish. We ran as fast as we could back to our camp and didn't stop until we reached our tents. We couldn't sleep a wink the rest of the night, and we left early the next morning still wondering what had happened. We never went back to that place again, and to this day, we still can't explain what we saw that night. I wish I could unsee what I saw that night. It's possible that it was a group of people playing a prank on us, but I still wonder if it was something more. This happened during a solo camping trip in the mountains when I was 24. I had decided to take a break from the city and spend a couple of nights out in nature, just me and my backpack. After a long day of hiking, I finally reached the spot where I had planned to set up my tent for the night. I got everything ready and started to cook my dinner over a small campfire. As I was about to fall asleep, I heard a strange noise. It sounded like someone or something was stomping around my tent. At first, I thought it might be a fox or something, but the noise seemed to be coming from all around me. I got up and listened carefully. The noise kept getting closer and louder. I felt a surge of adrenaline and quickly got out of my sleeping bag. I reached for my headlamp and my knife and slowly unzipped the tent. I was expecting to see a wild animal, but instead I saw a man standing just a few feet away from me. Tall and muscular, dressed in a dark hooded cloak. He was staring straight at me. I froze, couldn't move or scream. The man just stood there, staring at me with a creepy smile. He brought his finger to his lips, signaling me to be quiet. Suddenly, I took a deep breath, mustered up all the courage I had, and without any hesitation, I sprinted away from the tent as fast as I could. It might have been the quickest decision I have made in my life. I didn't stop until I reached the nearest ranger station, where I reported the incident to the authorities. Since then, I never went camping again. I still can't get the image of that hooded man out of my head,